as guidance in benefiting the society. As is always the case, the success of any initiative will depend on the support and collaboration with the community. In this regard, we would like to recognize the close relationship we have with the U.S. Embassy and recognize our community partners, including the Sultan Center, Equate, and then Kuwait, for their support and contribution to AmCham Kuwait. Thank you all for being here to navigate 4 great leaders' experiences and challenges in this session. At this time, I would like to turn the mic to Madam Ambassador, Her Excellency Alina Romanowski, U.S. Ambassador to the State of Kuwait. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your introduction. And also, I'm really thrilled to be on the program today. I'm actually doing this from the U.S. I'm doing a quick trip to the U.S. this week. This is a really good example of what happens when you have to balance family and business, family and your profession. So I apologize in advance for having to jump off early on this hour-long session, but I'm really thrilled to be able to participate and to try to answer as many questions and contribute to the conversation as I can. But let me give you a special thanks to the AmCham Kuwait and also the Women in Business Focus Group for organizing this virtual program and really bringing together an impressive panel of businesswomen from Kuwait. It's really a thrill for me to join them in this conversation. So I'm really looking forward to it, and also working together with so many people to level the playing field for women, as we say. Let me just say a couple of comments. This year, the AmCham Kuwait is celebrating its 36th anniversary, so congratulations. And I'm pleased to hear about the recent launch of the Women in Business Focus Group. We see the AmCham is a valuable source connecting American companies in Kuwait and sharing common experiences to present industry-driven solutions for trade and investment issues facing both the U.S. And Kuwaiti businesses. And I've been going around chatting a lot with, excuse the telephone, chatting a lot to Kuwaiti business women and men, and I've gleaned, a lot of really good insights into how we can continue to work together. I think the Women in Business group can serve as an important platform to discuss and address the challenges that women face doing business in Kuwait, as well as empowering the next generation of women in the workforce. We are witnessing a new era of female leadership at the highest levels of the US government and frankly across corporate America. So that's really exciting for us. Just to highlight that, on January 20th, Vice President Kamala Harris was sworn in as the first female vice president in the history of the United States. So that's really an inspiration for pretty much everybody here. And then when President Biden formed his leadership team, many of you probably are aware that he's nominated one of the most diverse cabinets, including several women in key economic posts such as the Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Treasury, and U.S. Trade Representative. So we're, as I would say, kind of on a roll here. So that's great. But I think equally important is to say that the cabinet is really a true reflection of the American people and demonstrate the strength of our diversity, which has really been very much an asset of US politics, US society, and culture. So that is a strong reminder of action and symbol of exactly that. My role as an ambassador is to strengthen the political, economic, and cultural connections between the United States and Kuwait. And I just want to run through a little bit of a couple of examples of how we do that, particularly in Kuwait, and support Kuwait's progress towards gender equality and advancing women's rights. There is still much work to be done, as I'm sure our panelists and we will we know, but we're off to, I think, a really good start. And I think the Women in Business Focus Group is going to help towards that. The embassy supports these initiatives by sponsoring a variety of outreach programs. In the political arena, for example, we've provided media and political campaign training for female leaders aspiring to hold representative positions in Kuwait. I realized that the elections in December didn't produce what I think many had hoped, but the fact of the matter is, getting elected and reaching out to your constituency is not an easy thing, but, training and learning best practices from some of our politicians is something we look forward to share. In the economic arena, we brought a George Washington University professor to Kuwait to give seminars and workshops, really to support women in social entrepreneurship initiatives. And I've been really happy, especially in the last few days, I think, to see that the government of Kuwait is also giving more support to small and medium enterprises. So that should be very exciting. And that's a place where I think we see a lot of women find their creativity in setting up businesses if they can get the support and the financing. So that's a good place to be. We also arranged an event with Aisha Bowie, a former NASA engineer and entrepreneur who spoke over Instagram Live about empowering girls and women in science and technology fields. That's an area that is still predominantly attractive to men, but we want to again level the playing field and engage with girls and women in terms of the study and their professional aspirations in that field if they want. So this is really just a few examples of how important women's issues are to the embassy and also to the U.S. government and our efforts in our own foreign policy as we promote that across the world. I will say throughout my career, I've traveled extensively across the Middle East region, and I've personally witnessed the essential role that women play in government, business, and society when they are given the opportunity to participate, particularly in a male-dominated environments. And I think you have some questions later on that kind of address or at least try to get to some of that, so that's exciting. We are all leaders in this important field, and we serve really as role models to the next generation of women leaders, and we can talk about how we do that. I've also seen many accomplishments by men and women, to support equality over my 40 years of career in government. Things are different, I will say, from when I first began my career. Many have played a role in making those changes, sometimes by having the courage to speak up and question our preconceived ideas, and that's really important. I'm proud that I've been able to do my part in advancing women to leadership positions through mentoring, training, recruitment, and really the courage to speak up. So as I look to all of you on the panel, I'm really heartened by the leadership and dedication and the success that I see in our panel members. So congratulations, and I'm really humbled by joining you in all of those as a panelist. And I'm confident that you will all continue in the fine tradition of leadership that allows us to continue to grow and make the changes that benefit both our society as well as others, and particularly with the younger generation that's coming up. So in closing, the U.S. Embassy and myself in particular is eager to work with the AmCham Kuwait's Kuwait Women in Business Focus Group on advancing these women's issues and to improve the gender equality conditions in Kuwait and frankly everywhere else in the world that both our countries touch in our foreign policy. So thanks for your participation in today's session. I'm looking forward to this conversations on secrets to success and exchanging ideas and continuing the momentum to encourage the next generation. So again, Arazu, thanks again for moderating this panel, and also really thank you to our impressive panelists to join us. I know you're all busy. Take it exciting. So again, thanks very much, and I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, for your remarks, and we truly appreciate your insights and time and support in joining us today. At this time, we would like to introduce our great panelists, Mrs. Iman Al-Rodam, CEO of Zain Kuwait, Mrs. Khadija Obala, CEO of Sultan Center Group, and Dr. Abir Al-Omar, Senior Executive, Corporate Communication and Government Affairs at Kuwait Petrochemical Company. We thank you for your participation today. We will start our discussion with Madam Ambassador. So at this time, I would like to ask, during your time as an ambassador and as a government official, what type of skills do you feel that you have acquired? And which one of them would you believe have helped you rise up to a leadership role? Thank you.
Well, that's a good question. As an ambassador, that really is in so many ways a culmination of your career and what you've done. And I think one of the things that is so important when you are in a leadership position like an ambassador, I mean, you're really representing your country and all the values that your country represents. You have to be articulate on, policy issues, on what we stand for, even if it's even if you may disagree with others in the arena. But being able to, go out and explain your role and difficult situations is something that's really, really important. It's something you acquire over the many years of doing this kind of work. And it's one of the things that, when you start out your career, sometimes you're not exactly comfortable doing public speaking. You're not exactly comfortable in finding ways to express. But, over the years, I've gotten a lot of training on media, with media, and also the more you engage the public and the more you do speaking engagements, that's a skill set that is really important and you need to acquire. So with that, those are the things that I see as the things you got to sort of begin early in your career to be able to be comfortable with.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Obviously, that public speaking is, it's difficult at times, and it makes a great difference. Well, I do this for a living, and I'm stuttering today because I'm having a little bit of an imposter syndrome. But yes, very well pointed. Thank you very much. So our next question is to Mrs. Al Rodan, the CEO of Zen. As the CEO of Zen Kuwait and a female leader, what have you been some of the most significant barriers in your career, and how did you tackle these challenges?
Good afternoon to everyone. Good morning, maybe, probably, to Her Excellency, Ambassador Elena. Let me just start by saying that I am very happy to see, and to be given the opportunity to see some of the familiar faces that we're supposed to see each other more frequently, like Dr. Labna Al-Qadi, Abir Al-Umar, and definitely Her Excellency. Let me embrace also the technology that makes it possible. Going to your question, I think the main issue or the main difficulty most women sees in big organizations is the fact that in big organizations, they do not fully prepare. They do not expect, honestly, women to get to the top executive posts. So they do not get the proper training that normally, the men colleagues would get. They would not get involved. They're not assigned tasks that the organization thinks of it as a bit challenging, and it is more of an experience building for capacity and experience building for the men rather than women in business. The other challenge that I have seen in my experience is the fact that society is traditionally looking or expect from women to be warm and nice. They also traditionally expect from leaders to be competent and tough. And I found myself at the beginning struggling to prove or to find the balance in between continuing to be warm and nice, because I definitely don't want to be categorized as a man for me to be a leader, and being also tough, decisive, and prove competency. And I have to say it's an ongoing experience. So at the beginning, it was more of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now it's more of, it goes, you find yourself throughout experiences and with time. And the essence is for women to continue to protect, their personality. You need to continue presenting yourself as you. You cannot copy someone else, whether it is a man or a woman, because you want to build that image within the organization or within society that you are a leader and you're still a woman. Leader need to be decisive, but this doesn't mean that you need to be caring. You need to listen to others. You need to be very, very approachable. With time, I started to tease my team, saying that, of course, my men colleagues, saying that I'm your mom. You need to, there is no shame of being, I'm a mother for all of you guys. I am listening, I'm approachable. And honestly, I found that maybe earlier in my career, I find myself trying to avoid being, or let's say the personality of the profile of a mom. I am a businesswoman. I should be very decisive. I should be very, tough. But no, I am very caring. And that's the challenge.
Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Iman, for your grateful insight. You just reiterated some of the points that the recent research has highlighted. These are empirical longitudinal research that has highlighted the challenge of, staying with your woman personality in a male-dominated profession and how to navigating that, how to stay true to yourself for more effectiveness. So thank you very much for your comments. Our next question is to Mrs. Uballa. Being with Sultan Center for so many years, previously as the CFO and now as the CEO, what is your definition of success? And has this definition changed throughout your career? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, and thanks for inviting me to participate in this panel. I hope that this is one of the first panels that will continue. I think the topic of women in leadership in this country and also globally has to be addressed, and the social bias that exists around it has to be definitely highlighted so we can move beyond it. But going back to your question, I believe success is a moving target. I think what defines success for me, at least when I was younger, is very different from what it is for me today. But generally, I think a success in my mind is being able to look at what you have achieved, stop and look back and see what have I achieved, not only in career-wise, but family, relationship with your friends, what have you contributed to the community, and feel a sense of fulfillment and feel a sense of accomplishment that you've done your best. Success also for me is not to have regrets, but to believe deep down that you've done your best, that you were capable of doing. So as I said, it's a moving target. You look back, you look at what you've done, and you set your target for the next one to come.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you. Our next question is to Dr. Abir. We understand that at Equate, many of your colleagues look at you as a successful and powerful mentor. When you think of the word success, who is the first person that comes to your mind, and what characteristics do they hold, which you would recommend to others to follow?
Thank you, Dr. Arouza. Nice to listen to you again, Iman, and to meet you, Khadija. Excellency, Ambassador Alina, we are so happy to have you here in Kuwait. I'm one of your great followers in the Twitter. I'm amazed with how fast you engage yourself with the community, we are looking forward to see you in the plant at Equate soon. I mean, the question is very interesting because it's so close to my heart as well. If I will define success, this will complement what Khadija said, because there are many sides and implements from to define success. Success could be many things. It's multifaceted. It's something that very difficult to just contribute. If you just Google now what's the definition of success, you will have more than 30 definitions. But I believe that there are always, things that you learn from every single event, every single person that you interact with during your life. And when you try to draw some similarity of, those who inspired me the most, I would say that they are those who convey their enthusiasm and good energy to me. On the top of the list comes my mother and my grandmother. I mean, you see, I come from not just a family of, let's say, capable and independent women, but the culture that was built on these women when our grandfathers had to take on the sea for months and months. It was our mothers who held the responsibility. They are the one, let me say, they are strong. It was not an option for them to be strong. It was, I mean, it's not an option really. It's a must for them to be strong, to handle all these difficulties and responsibility. But what was an option for them is to be kind, to be loving, to be giving during those difficulties. And that, in my opinion, is also a true meaning of success. And that is why my mother has become my #1 inspiration. She is a pioneer in education. Her most important lesson to us, education is an essential tool, but with the strong belief that we have to give importance to to building the personality of the human. And the psychology side, even before, I mean, she is now over 90, but since the day that I'm born, I do see her so close to us in order to take care of our personality in parallel to the education. She is always stressed on how important is the free thinking and the expression. I remember one time at school when I wrote an assignment about how I felt that my teachers did not encourage freedom of expression. And my mother was called in to speak to the school authorities because they were not happy. And she defended me, so this is part of the way that we were nurtured. And if I will recount all the great lessons I learned from her, I will need Dr. Haraf to take the whole webinar to myself. So, I mean, just to wrap up, because the question was about the role model, I think being independent thinker, career lady, never allowing gender differences to define our roles during the families, all these coupled with a positive, enthusiastic, curious personality helped me really to shape and fuel my life and my career.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abir, and kudos to your mom for raising such a productive and effective member of the society. Since it's COVID time, I'm giving her a virtual high five. Please pass on my regards to her. Now we will move on to the ambassador, Madam Ambassador. As we continue with the questions, I would like to ask, what habits, skills do you find most important in order to live a successful life based on your definition of success?
Thanks for the question. I have to, first of all, thank all of the panelists who have spoken and answered questions already. I couldn't agree more with so much of what they've said, especially and in the context of the question you've asked me. I think it's really important to know what's important to you. Because throughout your life, you're going to be challenged by all sorts of things that come your way, whether they are with your family, with your partner, your spouse, your kids, whoever else is in your life, and including, I think, the people who work with you and for you and ask you to do things that may be incredibly frustrating. So a skill to be able to isolate that and be successful, focus on what they've asked you, and then move on to whatever is really important. The second thing I would add, it would be very much, you have to be able to speak what I say, speak truth to power. You have to be, first of all, yes, competent. You have to be knowledgeable. It's very important to also know where you can go and build a network of people who will give you the right information. But at the time that your leadership, as you're moving through your career, has to make decisions, you have to be willing to stand up and speak truth to power, and to tell them your opinions when they ask, to be able to bring the right discussion to the table. Because at the end of the day, to go back to what's our success is to be able to meet the success not only of the organization we're working for, because they have metrics, they have standards, they want a profitability of XYZ. They want to be able to achieve initiatives in foreign policy with country XYZ. You have to be able to deliver on that and to be seen as the person who's going to take it over the goal line. Or into the goalpost, whichever sport you're looking at. But it's also really important to be able to do it in a way that is convincing, even if the people around you are a little less prone and more reticent to speak to power. And how you do that is built on your own personality, on how you have been mentored, but it's really important to bring that to your own success. So, and I also want to add another point to what my other colleagues have said about how, who else is around you in your life to make you successful. I think your mother is incredibly important. It's also really important to get the support from your father. If your father and the male members of your family are not supportive, it's really, really tough. And they have to be supportive, not in the context of necessarily saying, oh yeah, they have to be positive, that when you have to turn to them and say, please do this, please help, what are the compromises, what are the things we have to do? They have to pick up without too much, as we say, grousing and complaining, because it's so important to keep that positive atmosphere to the maximum extent positive. So I give great kudos to both my father and my spouse, who has really been supportive. I don't think I could have achieved my success without their 100% support in making me as successful as they could be. So with that, I'm going to have to say thank you for the opportunity to share my experience. I'm really looking forward, like the rest of our panelists, to participate in more of these conversations and sharing my experiences in the future. But I'm going to turn it back over to really our terrific panelists who are speaking from a lot of experience, and we share, I think, the same view of how to get where we were over our careers. So again, thanks very much.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Our next question is to Mrs. Al-Rodan. What do you believe has been the biggest factor for your success, and could you elaborate on those factors?
Well, thank you for the question. To me, success is being happy, being satisfied with all what this means. It has a different meaning. It has a different interpretation from a person to another person. For me, success is also is helping others to feel the same, to feel happy and to feel empowered and feel satisfied. I think the same applies, let's say, factors applies on success at home, in society, with your family, with in your work environment, with your colleagues, with your employees, with the bigger circle of people we interact with on a daily basis. some of which we don't know. We just, we just deal with for a few minutes or interact with for a few minutes. But the fact that you extend your respect, you care about others, that what would give you the feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of happiness. Now, with lots of the responsibilities we all have, this gives us little time to think of the way we leave an impact on others. And from my experience with my family, with my peers, with my colleagues, I think the finding the time to listen to others more than having others listen to you is a great way to ensure, achieving that success. Giving the let's say the space and the importance for everyone around you equally, and that's not an easy thing, especially at home with my kids. That's very challenging, and I believe that is very challenging for all women in business, because we tend to take the needs and the requirements of our businesses more, let's say, seriously, and forget about all of the abstract and the academia and researches. If you are very committed, then you take your agenda very seriously. But because you rely on the understanding of your families, then it doesn't mean that they're less important, but we do not commit our time and we do not commit to our agendas with them as much as we do in business. And it took me lots of time to realize that I need to strike this again, that balance. I need to coach myself to try to let's say work fairly on getting there, on listening more to my friends, to my family, as much as I committed myself to do the same within our work environment. Persistence is definitely success. Is not success comes from a number of failures, and sometimes I think with the biggest failures after each, if you are persistent, after each disappointment, if you continue with the same level of enthusiasm and persistence, you will hit a bigger success. So you need to be patient, and you need to be also realistic. I'm originally an engineer, and sometimes I think I am too realistic. And at the same time, I am I'm a dreamer. I don't see why I cannot reach this. Whatever the target or whatever the aspiration is. Focusing on people is a great way for, as Her Excellency the Ambassador said, our success comes greatly from the support we got from other people. And the more we support others, the more support we will get. At a time we might need it more than they do.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Iman, and thank you for pointing out to some of the biggest success attributes that we're talking about, and the recent literature on the changes with artificial intelligence and so on. point out at some of the characteristics you called out, such as patience and empathy, and those are going to be the most sought after characteristics because they cannot be replicated by machines or algorithms. So those are very important, and thank you so much for pointing them out. Now, our next question would be to Mrs. Abala. What are some challenges that you have faced to have a stable work-life balance, and how did you manage them?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm a mother to two small kids. They are 6 years old, twins, a boy and a girl. They require a lot of attention. Newly appointed CEO, and when I was appointed CEO, we had to go through a major restructuring program for Sultan Center. Do I believe in work-life balance? No, I don't. I think it's an outdated concept. I think it might have worked for our parents and grandparents where, you know, work finished at 5 and they packed, they went home and they were fully disconnected from work. They had no phones, no emails, no notifications, no messages. Today is not the case, unfortunately, maybe, but we cannot fully disconnect. I don't think it is possible today. Balance, also the word balance is a tricky one because when somebody says balance, it means you have to give the exact amount of attention and focus to every single aspect of your life, your kids, you know, work, your relationships, your spiritual relationship as well. And you gotta juggle them all comfortably without feeling that one of them is gonna eventually fall off. And that is not possible, in my opinion. I think what I do is I take every day at a time. If I'm at work and I get a call and I'm in a meeting and I go and get a call from the kids' school, guess what? I'm gonna take that call because it is important. I know school doesn't call me every day. If they call me, it is something important. So I take that call. If I am, you know, spend a weekend and I go to the gym, but I'm waiting for a very important email, well, if that email comes, I'm going to take a stop. I'm going to check that email. I'm going to probably react to it. So honestly, I think we as a woman, we're very good at that. We're very good at kind of like directing our attention to the most important thing. We are good at prioritizing and doing the triage with everything that we need to do in life. So the most important thing is not to get overwhelmed when you have a busy schedule with everything you need to do, but you just believe that you're doing the best that you can do. And everything that you have around your life doesn't have to be completely separate. It can also be integrated in your full day and you will manage and it will be okay. So that's my belief.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Abala. And yes, just back to your point about, you know, not calling it a work-life balance. The term I use generally when I reflect on this topic is a work-life harmony. You know, finding the harmony within the different spheres that needs our attention at that moment at the most time. So, you know, we can compartmentalize to make sure that we're harmonious with every part of our life, but that's a very good point and I appreciate that. Thank you. My next question will be to Dr. Abir. Do you find that your leadership style has changed throughout your career? And if yes, in what ways?
Well, yeah, I think my leadership style has been evolved. Leadership is not an expertise. It's more as a constant education. To me, the most successful leaders can adapt their leadership style to the situation and most importantly to the team around them, including their own leaders and managers. They become the person the team needs them to be at that time, at that situation, at that moment. So, I mean, today I completed 25 years at Equity Group and received a message, automated message, but as well as a call from the CEO, congratulate me. And I think I linked this with your question. I mean, everything is evolving and I developed also myself and during this 25 amazing years that I spent at Equate.
Well, first of all, Alf Mabruk on your work anniversary. You know, that's a testament to your success. and greatness. And it's a very good injunction for, as we go to our next segment. And, indeed, flexibility and adaptability not only is, it's a sign of great leadership, it also is reflected on, how the companies are managed. Generally, the successful ones are those that are most adaptable and, have leaders that are most adaptable. So thank you very much for your insights on that. And now I would like to pose a series of questions. And these are all, this is for all the panelists, and, you guys can respond to them as, in order, or, if you want to respond to one or not. So what advice would you give to the next generation of female leaders? So I would like for you guys to, all have a line, or, take a minute or two and give the advice maybe for the younger generation now, or to someone that, you would have given it to your younger self.
Yeah, I think, like my colleagues here, I was very influenced by my mother. And I think from a very young age, she said, aim high. So the advice to every single young woman is to have confidence in herself, and really to aim very high. They say shoot for the moon, and if you fall, you fall among the stars. So you need to set your goals high, and as you get there, I think what's very important is to make room for other women. So as we navigate, our corporate world and a lot of glass ceiling around it, make sure you open the road and pave the way for other women to come in. Because I think if we all do that in every single company, then collectively we will disrupt the social bias around what a woman leader trait should be. And this is something that was discussed before with my colleagues, that they need to be have certain traits of being strong and aggressive and loud. And then they completely dismiss the very important trait of being compassionate and caring. And for me, I think if we can do that, we will redefine what a leader is.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I'll pose the next question. And again, this is for all three panelists. What advice would you give women who are entering into male-dominated professions? And I think, on this one, I might pick Mrs. Rodan, because, you're in telecommunication, which, tends to be more maybe male-dominated on top. So maybe you can take this question.
I think, as I said before in the earlier question, is my advice would be, don't allow yourself to get melted in between. Yeah, you don't need to change yourself in a way to fit to a specific profile in order for you to fit or to grow. You need to continue to, protect yourself, protect your identity. Again, be yourself, as whether it is as a female, as whatever profession you are at, as a person. And every person or every woman need to protect her personal characteristics, her profile. Don't copy someone else, because you need to fit into that successful profile.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And, another point that I think of that, it's, as more women rise to leadership positions, kind of establishing the organizational culture that kind of advocates for women, during the onboarding or orientation, or as they get on board, to stay true to themselves, and that, that their capabilities are appreciated as who they are. So thank you very much for your insights. And Dr. Abir, we will pose the last question for you. What are some of the tangible, actionable tips that you would recommend in order to create a more balance in your work or personal life? And what are some of your practices personally?
Well, I think having a work life, whether you call it harmony or balance, is very important. To me, the key to this is leading a healthy lifestyle. Health is wealth. So being successful at work requires focus, commitment, dedication, and time. And being your best professional self also requires that you take care of your health. So I think this is a very important way of life that we adapt during our professional life and after and before that as well.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Abir. Thank you, Mrs. Abala and Mrs. Rodan, and thank you to Her Excellency for being here and, you know, just starting this discussion and hopefully to be followed by many more. At this time, I would like to open the floor for some of, you know, your questions to the panelists. The way this will run, if you may want to type in your question and I can read it to the panelists just to make sure that we're not having, you know, excessive noise and talking over each other. If you do have questions, please go ahead and type it and I will share that with the panelists. And please, if you have a specific panelist in mind, just mark that. Thank you. So we have one question, which is, they haven't put to which panelist, so I would just ask any one of you to respond. What is the most challenging matter that you have encountered to build your leadership success?
I mean, I can answer this, but I mean, there will be, for me, there is no one single most challenging matter. Because in a certain time and situation, when this challenge is considered on the peak and the top and the highest, after a few years, you will laugh in how you consider this challenge as a top and a significant challenge in your life. What I think the way that I handle those challenges, when the challenge come as an obstacle, I always embrace them and consider them as an opportunities. That's why the challenges can be turned to an opportunity, which I personally got a lot of benefit from this concept for my growth as well.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Zabir. Thank you. The next question is posed by Mrs. Samiha Al-Salam to Mrs. Al-Rodan. Mrs. Salam is asking, telecom is a very male-driven environment and a very few women are in leadership roles. As a woman in such a leadership role in telecoms, what are some of the steps you are taking to increase and motivate women to work in telecoms and expect to grow?
Interesting question. We actually have, I have built a charter where we measure, we track, and we measure our success in empowering more women within the organization, touching all levels, so managerial levels, touching all professions, touching, you know, also all different genders, age groups, and an area of specialization. I'm also in particular interested into or engaging in a number of working groups. These are not very formal working groups. It's more of, these are friendly groups that I have built over the years working in the industry, and it has dear colleagues and women from different operators in the region, and in the Gulf region, as well as in North Africa. And we from time to time tend, honestly, we don't meet regularly, but from time to time we exchange experiences as well as success stories hands for each other on how to empower, how to inspire, honestly, more than empowering. I have to say that I am very, very proud of the maturity that we have reached in the region. And specifically that before 3 years and even before the, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was open on the media, I have interacted and I have seen what 3 years? It goes way beyond 3 years. Before 8 years, I started to interact with very prominent women who started to work with us in Zain, Saudi Arabia. And from there, I found that women were very empowered in business in Saudi Arabia. There were some restrictions in the work environment, but they're very educated, they can represent themselves very well. And I think with the latest changes in the business environments in Saudi Arabia, the whole world have seen this. And I am very proud of the leading position that they started to take on. When someone says that X or Y of the women leader inspired me, this puts on an added, I don't want to say responsibility, but sometimes I feel it as a commitment that I'm a person who doesn't like, public appearances and participation in panel discussions but I found myself committed to do this because some of it is for inspiring other women, young female women, specifically in our industry.
Thank you, Mrs. Rathan. First of all, we're really happy you're here and, enlightening us with your, insights. And this will be, unfortunately, there are several more questions, but I will only get to one more. As we want to stay true to time that we gave within 1 hour, since I know everyone has other commitments. So I will ask that the final question for the panelists has been, what has been most helpful in balancing your leadership role while living and working during COVID times? And what would you like, okay, the question cut off, sorry. And wait, I'm sorry about that. It's like, well, let's just stop that. What has been your, biggest challenge leading during COVID?
I'm going to try to answer that. I think during COVID, especially last year, and being a retail company that was open throughout, the crisis and beyond the curfew hours, the biggest challenge, and I do remember also this all happened during Ramadan season, is that the line between work and outside of work was completely gone. Usually, there are certain working hours, and then you would expect some emails or messages and all that. That line was completely gone, not only from, let's say executives that you would expect you need to get back to them, but basically from everyone. And it was across all the stakeholders we work with, whether employees, suppliers, colleagues. It just completely blurred, which means that you would be in a meeting at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. And there was a crisis mode, but it got exasperated in my mind. People went beyond. That was extremely challenging, and I think we had to live through that for a period of time before things started settling. It was very exhausting and quite a challenge, but again, it was part of the crisis management, strategy that we have developed. I do hope we don't have to live that again. I think having gone through it last year, I think number one is I think we got thicker skin. So even if we go through it again, we know how to address it. And I'm sure here my colleague panelists have gone through similar, crisis management periods throughout COVID last year. But I also think that, going back to that integration between life and work, it gets very, very blurry. So it's always good to kind of like draw the line a little bit so that it doesn't overflow.
It doesn't overlap. Thank you very much. I would just like to apologize to some of the questions that we don't have time to get to. Hopefully, we will have many more opportunities of such panels and such discussions, because there's no way we could get to all these, dynamic questions in one session. I would also, like to thank you all for participating, and a particular thanks to the U.S. Embassy and Ambassador Linovsky, and I'm thankful to our panelists, Dr. Abir, Mrs. Al-Radan, and Mrs. Abala. I am very happy that you joined us. This was a very heartful and insightful discussion, and I look forward to engaging with you on many more occasions. And again, thank you for all the guests who supported us and supported the AmCham Kuwait's mission of promoting women in business. Thank you and have a great night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.